Hey friends, welcome to my channel. Let's get crafting.
Today's video has 15 DIYs. 11 of them are minis that you can put on a tiered tray. I'm so excited to share this because at the 11th project mark, I'm going to show how I styled it on the tiered tray. Now don't forget that I have these fun printables that are linked down below, and after DIY 11 you're going to see that I have an extra 4 projects to share. This DIY is going to be using this printable where we are going to be using the little scale clock. Now we're going to need 2 of these cups that they have at the Dollar Tree, and then 2 of these mini squares also from the Dollar Tree. Now yes, I know my E6000 is at the end of its life, but friends, I squeeze every drop out every single time. I'm a very frugal crafter. So once I've got my E6000 and hot glue for a short-term and long-term hold, I went ahead and applied it to the bottom silver cup, and then I put on the clear cup on top. Now we're going to be making a miniature scale for a tiered tray. We're going to take that printable with the scale, we're going to cut it out after we've spray painted our cup white, and then we're going to simply glue it on, and you can style it with whatever you want for your tiered tray. For this DIY, we're going to be using this printable and this printable, and we are going to be making miniature lemon boats. Now for all of my printables, I always like to shoot a little bit of hairspray on it because it really does lock in that ink from my printer. Once that's off, sitting and drying to the side, I'm going to cut my lemons a little bit bigger than half apart from one another, because I want it to be a little bit thicker on one side, the other part was just a little bit. Once I've got them separated, I'm going to take some sandpaper and I'm just going to sand down that foam to smooth it all out. Now I'm going to take these printables. I know that many of us have scrapbook paper on hand, but if you're a new crafter, I thought that it would be fun to give you some pattern paper to work with. You're going to go ahead and add some hot glue and then press that right down onto a piece of the paper, and then I'm going to use my piece of sandpaper and just sand until I get a nice clean edge. Now I'm going back in with the printable that I have for you, and I'm going to cut down 2 triangles from this same pattern. We want to have a triangle that reverses the pattern on the back side because we're making the little sails, and I want to make sure the pattern is on both sides of the sails so you don't see the white cardstock on the back. Once I had those sails all cut out, I took my skewer stick and I'm just going to poke a hole, once I've cut it down to size, down to the middle of that lemon, and I'm just going to make sure it's nice and leveled, and then at this point I glue it down into the lemon, and now I'm going to add on the sail. So I'm just going to add a little bit of hot glue, press that down, and then I'm going to flip it over on the back side, add some more glue, and apply the other part, the back side of that pattern that we cut out earlier, and press everything down and nice into place so you don't see any seams or cracks. Once those are done, I went back over to another part of the printable, which was this little banner flag that has stripes and it says summer on it. I went ahead and cut that out, and you're going to notice on that printable, on the stripe lines, I have a little black outline on it so you know where to cut so you don't cut it wrong. And then you're just going to fold it in half, and then you're going to curl it around the skewer stick and just hot glue it down into place and add another flag to it. And then one last thing, I added 2 clear circles at the bottom with my hot glue so it'd have a nice stand to stand up. This DIY is going to be using some of these doilies from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to be using 2 of them because I'm going to be making 2 miniature bouquets of flowers. And then I'm going to take some of this craft wrapping paper. I'm going to cut it down to about a square or a rectangle size. And then I'm going to, you can see the fan was on in my craft room and it was blowing the doily all over the place. Once I've got that glued down, I went ahead and cut it down to size. And now I'm going to scroll it up so it resembles a wrapped up piece of paper around a bundle of flowers. And then I'm just going to glue that into place. Now at this point I decided to rough up the edges at the top just a little bit so it looks like it's kind of curling over. And once I got it to a place that I liked it, I went ahead and added some twine, and then I tied on a bow and hot glued it on so it didn't slide off over time. And then I just cut down the twine ends so it's not too long. And then at this point we can go ahead and take a piece of foam. I'm going to add some hot glue after I've cut it down to size so it fits down inside of our little paper. And then we're going to just add our florals. Now you can add whatever you want. I went with daisies for this since my theme is yellow in this video and I'm doing a lot of lemons. But you go ahead and just add whatever flowers you want to it and it's ready to use on your tray. Friends, if you have not heard yet, I have a brand new website, which is HeidiSomble.com, and over there is where you will find all the links to all of my projects and printables that are in a safe, easy, downloaded location. Now, if you click the link down below in my description box, it'll take you to the printable for today that's over on my website. Now, one of the things I wanted to point out about the new website is that I've had a lot of you for a long time asking, how can you pin my projects? Now you're going to be able to do that. When you go onto one of my posts or you look around the website and find other projects you like, all you have to do is hover over any of the pictures and the Pinterest logo will pop up, which will allow you to pin the project to your Pinterest accounts so that you can save it for future projects and ideas. This project is going to be using this printable and we're going to be using this buffalo check black and white paper. And we're going to take this wooden heart from the Dollar Tree, pop off the tag and the sticker, and then we're going to give it a coat of black paint. Now you can paint this whatever color you want, but I wanted it to match the printable that I had. And so I'm going to go ahead and give it one coat of black paint, and once it was dry, I'm going to take the printable. I put some hairspray on it first to lock in the ink, and now I'm going to kind of do a rough sketch around it so I can lessen the bulk of the paper. I'm going to add some hot glue, rub that on with my brayer. I love using this tool. I use it all the time whenever I'm trying to flatten out things to get a nice smooth surface. And then I'm going to take my sanding block from the Dollar Tree and I'm just going to sand it until the edges neatly come off. Then I'm going to take an even rougher sandpaper and I'm just going to buff out the edges and make it look more farmhouse, and it's ready to be displayed. For this DIY, we're going to be using this glass jar from the Dollar Tree, some of these oats that I picked up from Hobby Lobby, and then we're going to be working with an orange color. First, I took my jar outside and I just gave it a nice spray paint coat of white. And now I'm going to create a buffalo check or gingham, whichever you prefer to call it, pattern on the jar. So I'm going to take that orange first and I'm going to lighten it with some white. And it's going to make more of a peachy orange color first, which I just think this is so pretty when you pair it up with the lemons and the mint that I'm using throughout this video. And I just use my heat gun gently over it. Don't hold it too long on a glass surface because it can crack the jar. But I'm just going to come back in after going vertically. Now I'm going horizontally. And I'm just creating this nice grid pattern with my brush. Once I've gotten all around, I'm going to come back in with the original orange color before I added the white. And I'm going to fill in the squares where the lines cross into each other. Once I had that all done and it was dried, I went ahead and got my oats and I just went ahead and cut them down, and I'm going to put them in the jar. And I love this because I feel like summertime lends well into these type of dried oats, because then it can kind of roll into the beginning of fall as well. So once it was all done, it's ready to be displayed. For this DIY, we are going to be using this printable right here, and we are going to cut out the bicycle paper. I'm going to be using one of these wood plaques from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to use it to cut out my lines, or trace them out better yet, and then I'm going to just cut right on the line so I can get the right sizing for my wood plaque. And we're going to be making a miniature sign for my tiered tray, and I'm just going to add some Mod Podge down first to be able to glue it on. And once I've got a nice thick coat of it, I went ahead and lined up my printable. And remember, I always like to add a little bit of hairspray first because it locks in the ink and then it doesn't make it smear whenever you use Mod Podge. I just don't want it to have that bleed any of those colors. And then I basically came back in after it was all dry with some brown paint, and I just distressed the edges lightly to give it that cute farmhouse look. For this DIY, we're going to be using this printable, and we're going to cut out the lemon sign, and we are going to first paint one of these wooden plaques from the Dollar Tree, a nice coat of white paint, and then with some Mod Podge, we're going to go ahead and stick on that sign right in the middle. I love that it had a white border around it. I thought it really made it stand out and just look so pretty. And then I went ahead and sealed it all in, and it was ready to be displayed. I personally love these miniature buckets from the Dollar Tree. I always get them in the wedding section. I'm going to make a miniature bouquet bucket. I thought that this would be so farmhouse cute for my tiered tray. And what I'm doing right now is I'm just going to stuff it with some foam to make sure that I can stick my flowers into so they don't come out. So I went ahead and glued the foam all down into the bucket, and now I'm coming in with some yellow, green, and then some of these white sunflowers. I think that's what they are, but I just love how they looked with the yellow, the white, and the green. I thought it looked so cute all together. Now you can use any florals on this, but I just think these are so cute, this little bucket. And there are stores that sell these for like $5 to $7, which is crazy because I'm doing this for about 50 cents. For this DIY, I'm going to be taking this wood round from the Dollar Tree's craft section. I'm going to cut off the twine, and I'm going to patch this hole because I'm going to be turning this into a lemon slice. Once I had that patched, I went ahead and came in with my sandpaper after it had dried for a little bit, and now I'm going to add on my yellow. I'm using more of a mustardy yellow color. And now I'm going to use a thin white brush to create my lines. So I did a circle and then a couple of different lines, and now I'm bringing in that element that makes it look like a lemon. So you can see that towards the top of these, we're going to call them pizza slices. You can see that I'm kind of curving in that corner to create that look of a lemon. And then at the end, you can distress it however you would like, and you have a darling lemon. For this DIY, we are going to be using this darling template for a lemon, and we are going to be cutting that out, the lemon and the leaf, and you're going to put it on whatever yellow fabric you would like. You can even do this on green and make a lime instead. And I'm just going to double up my fabric and cut around it, and after I've got a couple of them, I went ahead and moved over to my leaf and did the same thing, because we want to have a front and a back. And now I'm just taking my hot glue and coming around the sides, gluing those edges together for those that don't sew. If you sew, by all means, you can sew with your sewing machine around the edges. And then I'm just going to stuff it, and then I'm going to close it. So you can see here that I'm pinching the fabric together for a real quick look. And again, you can sew this, but I find that with these type of projects, so little, the hot glue does work pretty well. And so I would recommend doing it this way if you're looking for a fun, fast project. And then once it's all done, I went ahead and took some twine up at the top, wrapped it around a few times, and then tied a bow. Now, this could be so cute if you made a whole bunch of these and put these on a garland. I had that idea after I had got working with this and made these two separate ones. I thought, how cute would it be to do even more and to make it with a garland? I think that would be so adorable. Once my bow was in place, I went ahead and glued my leaves, the front and the back, together. And then I added them to the back of the lemon, and it was ready to be displayed. We are now going to be using this fresh lemon tag sign, and we're going to cut down the sides so that it fits onto this wood plaque. It's going to cut off a little bit of the F, which is okay. I actually like the way that it looked on this wooden tag, but I'm going to go ahead and cut off an angle on one side and then cut off an angle on the other side. I just took the same piece and reversed it, so I made sure I got the same cut on both sides. And then I know at this point I'm now going to trace where I cut those lines for my tag with my wood, so that way I can cut this with my new tool. Now I have to give a review on this tool. I will say that this tool does so wonderful at cutting popsicle sticks, but I will say that it is a little bit harder to cut this particular wood. I felt like it did do a good job getting the initial cut going down into it, but I definitely had to work with it. This wood is a lot thicker than a popsicle stick, where you really have to kind of wiggle it around a little bit to get it to cut and to break. But it did do a good job where I didn't have to pull out my miter box. But you can see here that I'm having to push down pretty hard to get that cut. So if you're looking to cut a bunch of popsicle sticks, by all means, it definitely does a great job for popsicle sticks because they're a little bit thinner than the thickness of these particular wood pieces. But I definitely will say that I would not be using this on painter sticks at all. But you can see here that I can get enough off where I can come back in with my scissors and cut a little extra. And then at this point, I now can add my tag. And I definitely like the tool. Like I said, the verdict is still out. I still have to play with it a little bit more and see what I feel about it, but I do like it. I picked it up because I saw a lot of my friends here on YouTube using it, and I thought I would give it a try. Now you can see here with my Crop-A-Dile that it goes through the wood so easily. It's one of the reasons why I love the Crop-A-Dile, because the spring system on it just never hurts my hand. Once I had my hole in for my tag, I went ahead and added in a ribbon to give that cute farmhouse summery look. I'm just going to do a loop, pull it through the hole, and pull it nice and tight. And then the very end is I just distressed the edges a little bit, and it was ready to be displayed. Now friends, at this point we are ready to start decorating my tiered tray. I know that these are such a fun, trendy thing to do right now, but I gotta tell you, I really do love decorating a tiered tray. There's something so fun about bringing in a whole bunch of miniatures, and I'm gonna say these can be really pricey when you go to the store. They can cost anywhere between $5 to $7 for all these different little things, and I made each one of these for under 50 cents. Super affordable, and you can see as I'm just playing with it and adding on all my little elements, it really does just give such a fun look to your home decor. I really had so much fun creating all of these projects and bringing all the look of it together for you all to enjoy today. I do hope that you try some of these fun miniature DIYs. If you haven't already, please do give this video a thumbs up. It really does help out my channel and helps my videos get out there and be seen. It's such an easy way to give back if you enjoy watching these videos that I have made for all of you, and it just means the world to me. Also, I would love it if you clicked the subscribe button if you are a DIY crafter and join me here every time one of my new videos posts and goes live. Alright, now let's move on to our next DIYs where I'm going to be focusing on things away from the tiered tray. For this DIY, we are going to be using one of these canvas frames as well as this printable. And you can go ahead and start by removing the canvas from the wood frame. I always like to save that part of the canvas because I use it for other projects. They're great to paint on. And then once I had that middle part all gone, I went ahead and ripped off all the other stuff around it, pulled out the extras with my pliers, and got it down to just the wood and the staples. Now I'm coming in with some brown paint first, and then I'm going to dry brush on some white paint. After I had that all how I wanted it to look, giving it that nice farmhouse look, I'm going to take my printable. I traced it around the frame. I didn't show that part. I forgot to get that part in here in the video, but I went ahead and cut it down to the size I needed for the frame. I added my hot glue and I took my brayer and I went ahead and just smoothed it all out. And now I'm going to take my frame and I'm just going to glue that right onto that foam core and the printable. Now I'm going to be taking these larger popsicle sticks, these large, I guess, tongue depressor sticks. I picked these up at Walmart, and I'm going to go ahead and cut them down to size because I want it to look like a crate on the lemons, like the lemons are sitting inside of a crate. Now I went ahead and cleaned up the sides a little bit. You can see here that I'm adding some ribbon around it. And then after I did that, I went ahead and came in with my stamp, and I'm just going to stamp down Farm Fresh right onto those wood sticks. And then I decided to rough up the crate just a little bit and broke a couple pieces off. This next DIY is so easy to make, and they charge so much for these at the store. So I've got some fabric, some lamb's ear, some lemons from the Dollar Tree, a long skewer stick, a couple of them, and then I'm going to take one of these garlands from Hobby Lobby, and I'm only going to use half of it. You could use the whole thing, but I'm only going to use half of it because I want it to be the length of my dining room table. So now I'm going to just do a little cut and rip down my fabric. And then on one of the branches of this lamb's ear plant, I'm going to go ahead and pull off all of those leaves. And now, with only using half of that garland, the Boxwood garland from Hobby Lobby, I went ahead and I'm taking my fabric and I'm just going to do a simple knot right onto the fabric. And I'm just going to play with it and glue it just a little bit in place, and I'm going to go all the way down the garland. Now I'm coming in with the lamb's ear and I'm kind of weaving it into the boxwood to make it look like it's all one big plant. And I'm going to work that all the way down the whole garland. And now I'm going to take my long skewer sticks, I'm going to cut them down to size, dig a hole into the lemon, add some glue, put the stick back in, and then I'm going to add some glue to the stick. This is going to allow the lemon to be able to be glued into this garland piece. If you don't do it, the lemons are just going to pop right out because they have a waxy texture to these lemons. So once I did that, I went ahead and placed my lemons where I wanted, and it was ready to be displayed. This DIY is so simple. I'm going to take one of these canvas boards from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to give it one coat of white paint all the way over so we can get rid of that canvas texture on these boards. Once it was dry, I'm going to come in with some painter's tape, push down really well on this so that you don't get any bleedage. And then I'm going to come in with my mustard yellow, painting on several stripes, and then I'm going to remove the tape when it's ready to be removed. Now at this point we're going to distress it a little bit to give it that distressed, worn down metal where it's kind of aged on the sides to give it that farmhouse feel. And then I'm going to come in where the stripes are, and you can see very lightly I'm going to dry brush in some of that distressing along those lines. Once I got it to a place that I liked it, I went with a very boxy font, and I'm going to just come in with that same dark paint, and I'm going to use an angled brush and take my time, and I'm going to come around all of those different corners. Now I'm going to speed it up just for the fun of it. Friends, I just want to encourage you, remember, you don't have to have vinyl cutting machines. They are really fun to have, but if you can't afford it, I would highly recommend just learning and having fun playing with paint. Now for this DIY, we are going to be taking this printable of these 3 lemons blown up in size and one of these Dollar Tree canvas boards. I'm going to cut out all 3 of these lemons, and I'm going to stick really close to the edging of the lemon. You don't want any white to be on it. Once I have all of them cut out, you're going to also need to take a craft knife and cut out those tiny little areas where there is white still. And I went ahead and just popped those out. And then I put on some white paint with one little dot of black paint. I'm going to mix that together because we want a little bit of a streaking look, and that little dot of black paint is going to allow that to happen. I'm just going to keep streaking those lines because we're going to make this look like a shiplap board. Once I had that to a place I liked it to be, I went ahead and dried it with my heat gun, and now I'm coming back in with a Sharpie pen. These are my favorite Sharpie pens, by the way. I'll link them down below. And then I'm going to add on my lemons with a nice coat of Mod Podge. Remember, don't forget to put some hairspray on the printables first so that they don't bleed on you, and allow them to really dry before you start using them. That's going to keep it from bleeding any of the ink. And then after that, I went ahead and just sealed all of my lemons on. And now I'm going to add on some lettering. Again, friends, I want to encourage you, have fun with lettering. I really love hand painting on my projects. I have been doing it for years, and I just find it so therapeutic. I just could sit here forever just working on these letters and just painting them. I just find them so fun. And I hear it all the time where friends are saying, I just don't feel like my handwriting is great, but mine wasn't either. I just have always just kept practicing and kept playing with it until I got it to a place that I liked. And there's so many great calligraphy books out there where you can practice. It's a great gift to pick up for yourself to practice when you have some downtime. Once I went over my letters a couple times to give it a nice font, thick, dark lining on it, I flicked on some little speckles of paint, and now I'm coming back in with my dark brown to give her that rusting look. I'm adding in a little bit more distressing where the shiplap lines are, and at this point I've gotten it to a place where I'm really happy with it and it's ready to be displayed. I hope you enjoyed this video today, and you will give some of these projects a try. Now remember, don't forget to go and get that free printable that's linked down below in my description box and pin any of those projects that you might be interested in giving a try in a future date.
I'm going to recommend a couple videos over here to the side that might interest you as well. And please do leave a comment down below to let me know which one you liked and which one you think you will try. And if you haven't already, please do give this video a thumbs up. And until the next episode, bye friends!